at foundation level in 2020 to being awarded as the CEO for this venture.
So I think
How has that journey been look like?
so this is my frank philosophy. I loathe the idea that start small, later do it big. And here's how I understand it. I believe that everything that was done big, the preparation began small. Okay. So if you can pull your weight and do it big, then you don't have to think small. I think that every entrepreneur goes through certain phases. Yeah. And I just use mine as the basis for the comparison. That for me, at the initial base when I wanted to start business, I didn't want to start business necessarily because I was looking for a certain community to help.
Okay.
I started because I wanted to get my family out of poverty. I wouldn't speak with much certainty, right? I've just talked about asymmetrical bets.
Yeah.
I am not very certain of what the future would look like.
Yeah.
But I'm working towards a future where people have a more reason to stay in this country.
Yeah.
Where young people are recognized for the value that they possess and the value that they can give to the country.
Okay.
Where people don't have to go through the turmoil that I had to go through to start businesses in the first place. And where people will be encouraged to be selfless. Great nations were built on the back of selfless people.
Yeah. Hello world. I hope you haven't found me annoying or boring yet. So welcome to the podcast, the Peswa Podcast. You know what we do on here? We essentially go behind the curtain and explore the stories of entrepreneurs and hope that their stories will set the entrepreneurial spirit ablaze, particularly for people on this continent of Africa. And today's conversation is like a really keen one I've been looking forward to. It's with like a serial entrepreneur whose expanse touches on like agri to health to climate. We're going to have a wonderful conversation, I promise you. And but before we go into the conversation, I've put it upon myself to feast with you on these letters John D. Rockefeller was sending to his son, in the 1800s. And today's excerpt, it reads like this. It's on the letter dated 7th of December, 1893. I read, I have always believed that an opportunity comes from another opportunity, as even the best ideas have flaws. Even if it's a very ordinary plan, if it is actually implemented and developed, it will be much better than a good one that is abandoned halfway, because the former will be carried out consistently, but the latter has already given up. So I said that there is no secret to success. To achieve positive results in life, it is of course good to love extraordinary wisdom and special talents. There is nothing wrong with it. As long as you are willing to take active actions, you'll be closer to success. Cool. Mr. Joshua, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me. That was a smooth start. I definitely will not let you sit by my girlfriend. I'm serious about that.
Oh, please, I don't have the words in those contexts. But well, so thanks for coming and take us back a little, right? Have you always been in Accra? Were you born in the city? How has it been for you growing up?
So I've always been in Accra, and only that my transitions have been in several phases.
Okay.
So I was born here in Accra, and I lived with my grandmother for my formative years.
Okay.
So my parents were still finding their feet, among others. So
okay.
When I was born, I was given to my grandmother, and I lived with my grandmother from 0 to 8.
Okay.
Within that formative years, yes. I was with my grandmom. And
people who are raised by their grandparents are older than they are wiser than their peers.
We'll come to find out that.
Yeah.
But it was really one of the good locations I could ever have grown. It was a new town, Accra.
Accra, okay.
And at the time, new town is not like in recent times. It's those primitive periods where the environment is still with very old structures and all of that. my grandmother had just this one single room that, and she was a mother of, I think, about 8, with fathers not present. So it was just my grandmother and the lady who lived with us.
Okay.
I remember quite funny stories where I used to report the lady who was taking care of me to my grandmother that she's been always eating the breakfast meal for me. Had this, my mom used to remind me all the time. She would say, I would say, oh, the lady was called Obaya.
Okay.
So say, oh, I'd go to my grandma and say, Obaya no mikoko ni nyina.
Oh,
because she's trying to feed you.
Yeah, but you're
1
not
to your
eating.
mouth and 3 to hers.
Yes. Okay.
By the time they finished, they look into the cup. She's done with
that's
it.
telling. It means like there wasn't a lot at home at the time.
At the time, there was very little to clutch on. But I just don't fully remember the exact details because I was quite young.
Okay.
But I just remember, some of the things that I liked doing, leaving home, play with the guys, soccer.
Yeah.
I used to
Kubolo.
love football. I always thought I was going to be the next Asamoah of the country. Here I am with shoes and all of that. But yeah, it was quite. Even after I had moved from my grandmother's place to my parents' place at La Paz, it was still within that rented chamber and hall that we all live.
Okay, so you moved from Newtown to La Paz.
It's from Newtown to La Paz. And then gracefully, my father was able to put together a house with his brother. So they partnered to do it.
Okay.
I think we stayed there for about 6 years. And then there was booming conflict at home. Like the real family conflict all the time. My mother and then the extended family was not really cool at all. And then my father's not as educated as many other fathers. So it got to a point in time, his brother was quite in the US at the time.
Okay.
His brother said, leave the house.
Oh, the house he built with him.
Yes. And my father says, I made substantial contributions to the house. But says, no, so my father says that it got to a point where he has to choose between his wife and family. That's the nuclear family.
And then his brothers.
And to fight for a property that he was aware that he made substantial contributions to.
Wow.
So, he was in that quandary, and then he always says it, beautifully, that he chose his wife, and that was the best decisions that he had to make. But from that, so it's more like, you think that you've moved from that bad environment, and then you are trying to resettle and transition better.
Yeah.
And then everything starts all over again.
Wow.
So we had to start, and these things were not like I was 18 or something. These were still within the period from 8 years, 9.
Yeah.
So we had to still live. That was at the time Ablekuma. I don't know if you know the place called CP. Fanmok, and I said that time.
Yeah.
We left, came to Awishi. It was another rented apartment. So moving from, a place where you had stayed comfortably a little bit, thinking it was going to be eternal, and then starting all over again from a rented apartment. We changed schools, and it was very tough at that time because my mom had to go through a surgery. She had a fibroid operation.
Wow.
My elder brother had then entered senior high school. I had now just entered JHS. My siblings were also in primary. And seeing my father's occupation is basic. He goes to Accra to preach. That's all he's been doing ever since I was born.
Yeah, you're son of a preacher, man.
Yeah, I'm the son of a pastor. I'm very proud of that.
Yeah.
So if you go to Accra on Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, you see my father at Cantonment preaching till today.
Wow.
Yes, till today. So that's all he's doing. So imagine somebody who's going to town to preach, hoping or basking his hopes on
Offerings.
the few, contributions passerbys would make, and having to take care of his wife.
How many children at this time?
We were 4.
Wow.
So having to take care of his wife who is going through a fibroid operation, having to rent a place within that same time, and his firstborn is also now entering senior high school, and then second JHS, and the others are also following suit. I actually even thought my father would lose his life because it was very, so he says that if he was able to go through that phase, it's a big encouragement for us to also face, everything that would need. Yeah.
Wow. That's wild. And that reminds me of something David Rubenstein says. David Rubenstein, he's the CEO for Carlyle. I mean, he's a billionaire now. And he says that one thing he is really grateful for is the hard starts life gave him. And that it gives you a certain hunger to keep thriving and keep doing more. Would you relate to that?
I mean, totally. I've even started writing a book. I think I've been sharing the snippet around, and the title of the book is "Stolen Childhood: My Experiences." I keep saying that my childhood was stolen from me.
Because you had to
And
grow up quickly.
exactly the point. I've had to do things that, I mean, if I had the opportunity again, I would love to do them, but in a rather different context.
Okay.
I'd love to, I mean, everybody must have good wishes. I'd love to come in an environment, in a context where the parents are doing quite well, and you have the freedom to make mistakes, make errors that you know that it won't come back hunting you instantly, because our job as entrepreneurs is to trying to solve problem, but in the process of doing that, you make mistakes, there are errors that you encounter, and if you have a room, you have that liberty to make those mistakes. It helps you to build that unicorn that you want to build.
Yeah.
But if you're from that poor, materially under-resourced environment, and you still don't have that liberty to make those mistakes, the errors will come back hunting you. So I've had to grow up. I mean, I'm currently 25. I've had to grow up to do so many things that if I had the liberty, I would have, done them in bits. So I keep saying that my childhood has been stolen away from me, but it's the best thing that ever happened to me, because I'd always wish for that.
And then, wait, how do you think that's going to inform the kind of parents you're going to provide your children? But we'll come to that. I think you come to that. Anyway, so you basically grew up in the Awishi Anya area.
Yeah, so
right?
from Newtown to the past to Awishi.
So where did you school?
I mean, so, because
school?
of the movements around, so we had to go through different schools all the time.
Okay.
One of the things that I'm totally grateful for is that my father always said that even if he had with him just a city, he'll still do his best to put his children in very good schools.
Okay.
Now, of course, schools come in different criterions.
Okay.
Obviously, there are ones that are going to be way higher than the others. They're going to be the Ivy Leagues and all the others. But the fact that you didn't attend the Ivy Leagues did not mean that the ones you attended are not literally better than some of the public ones that existed. So I didn't necessarily go to a government school like the government schools, but the schools that I went to were not in that bad shape, admittedly. They were quite good. I went to the ones I can remember. I think when we're at Fanmok NIC, I attended Diok Foundation, from Diok to, and then we left to Hope Marie at Santa Maria, and then City of Angels at Awoshi, and then went to Amasamai. So when we went to Amasamai, I think that was in JHS1. It was a whole.
So the family still at Amasama now?
Yeah, we're still at Amasamai. That's been our permanent place by grace.
Okay, so dad has put up his own.
Yeah, so
church now. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's quite a prudent man. Interesting. So high school.
Accra Academy.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So yeah, really Accra boy, an Accra boy.
Yeah,
through and through.
Fully Accra. Only that, there are parts of Accra that are not Accra, that don't look like Accra.
Yeah.
I mean, because even as it stands now in Amasamai, so not just Amasamai, when you get to Amasamai, you have to go to the deeper parts of it. That's where we live. It's called Achiamai. But even in Amasamai now, you can count less than 4 hospitals that exist.
Yeah.
There's a government hospital, and then just a few, not necessarily hospitals, but clinics, short clinics around. It still tells you the state of the place. We've been in that place for 17 years now. So imagine 17 years ago what was happening. There was no electricity, there was no water at the place. We have moved to, it was just a 2-room, 2-room place. I remember that when we alighted there, my sister asked my father, "Where's the house?" It was very funny because, the rented place that we were in at Awoshi was not, that luxurious.
But I mean, it seems better.
Yes. And you can see the building at least like that.
Yeah.
So when we came, and then, I'll share the picture with you so that you can have it on the background or something. You'd obviously also ask, where's the house? It looked just like that. There was no kitchen, there was no washroom, nothing inside there. So we used the
public.
No, not necessarily the public one, the ones that you do. The locals call it the atonko, that one.
Yeah.
So it was just outside in that ceiling carved nature. And then in the first few months, it was very hard because we're still young. So that transition, everybody was like, where are we now? Where's this? That you said you were building a house. You brought us here. I mean, if we had, I wish more like the Israelites. If you had left us in Egypt, it would have been much better than because here there's no water, there's no electricity, you know, and you don't even get a car. So you have to wake up at dawn. It was a very daunting time going to school within that JHS period. You have to wake up at dawn.
And the old man had to also move from there to Kanisha to come and preach.
Yeah, he has to come to Accra. I mean, so I remember sleeping in class many times because you wake up early, you have to leave to catch the early taxi from the main town before you're able to get to Amasamai. So it was really tough. And I keep saying that if you get to Amasamai now, you still see the state. Imagine 17 years ago. It's really, really, you know. And the pharmacy that by God's grace, my brother and I have opened is one of the very modern ones that is helping the community, at least 8 communities across. So imagine what have been happening years ago.
Wow. So you go to Accra Academy. What was your mom doing? What was like your mom's occupation at the time?
I mean, before my mom had the fibroid surgery, she was a trader. She used to help. So she used to do pastries and all of that to sell and support. But ever since, I mean, I entered class 6 when she had the fibroid surgery, she's not being able to work again. She was advised not to do anything, you know,
heavy
that would reopen the wounds and all of that. So so it's just been my father.
Okay.
And
correct. But your mom is still around. We thank God for that. So you go to Accra Academy. What did you study at Accra Academy?
I did business.
Oh, okay. So wait, what informed that? Is it that you had like do you have like any earlier experiences of like doing business, transacting, while in school?
So I didn't have the luxury to even understand the impact of the courses I wanted to do in senior high school. To know that, maybe you want to do businesses, the future that it gives you, the future opportunities, or if you do science, these are the future opportunities. I just had certain careers I wanted to pursue. A number of them when I was young, I wanted to be a musician because I could sing. I wanted to be a footballer because I used to play for the community and then the school. And I wanted to be a lawyer, but not really. That legal aspiration was a bit inspired by my mom because she wanted to be a lawyer and she couldn't do it. It only became serious for me when my father lost the house that he substantially contributed to, and I thought that maybe if I were a lawyer, there were
I see why you're pursuing law now.
So
I see.
A number of circumstantial reasons pushed me to chase some of the things I'm doing. But like I said, I didn't have the luxury to understand what I wanted to do. I just knew that at the time science was not cut out for me. That's it. And then I thought that maybe if I read business.
Why was that?
I mean, I didn't have
the grades for it?
No, I had very good grades. In fact, all my science grades were quite good. But the teacher was wicked, so I didn't think it was quite wicked. It was lashing as every
Seeds
morning.
of trauma.
So I didn't think that science was something I really wanted to do. Yeah. And my brother was already pursuing science, and he'd always say it's a lot and it wasn't my thing. So I just chose business. And I went to Accra Academy purposely because I wanted to play football. So whatever course I was going to do, that didn't even matter. It was just football. My parents were basking their hopes on seeing the next Asamoah Jan. I left school.
Must have been really good.
Oh yes, I was a striker for my community. The last memory I have playing in Dar es Salaam was the last goal I scored and we had the cup. So I was quite good at the time. I mean, when I played in Accra Academy, I played for my hall, I played for the school team. But I became a prefect, so I had double responsibilities. I couldn't cope. So I just chose,
Okay, so after Accra Academy, what happened? Where did you go?
So I went to Lagos. So it was after Accra Academy that everything began to change. I began to understand reality much more. And because it was very hard, you finish school. I went to school, you socialize with a large number of people from different backgrounds. You see how people from good homes are getting support and all of that. I mean, I never really had visits in school. My father would just pass around on Wednesdays and she would bring an olonka of gari. Those were the things that I'd get, olonka of gari and some nido. So my chop was had Gary and Nido. If you want to get Gary in Accra Academy, you know the location is me. Everybody comes to me. It was that big.
Wait, were you selling? Are you selling the Gary?
I wasn't selling, but I was not eating much of it.
Oh, okay.
Because my mom used to say that, when you eat too much, it will affect your eyes. I don't know where our parent got that from, but so I didn't eat much of it, even though that's what I had. So the boys would come for it. So I didn't get that visit, but I knew I had friends, that their parents would come around. They were giving them monthly stipends of 500 cedis at a time. And the guy's father comes around with a different car all the time. Very heavy cars, at the time, Chrysler and things. And then he has new boots all the time and you are using some boots. I'm like, geez. So when I finished senior high school, the thought of what next was a big problem. Because I was wondering whether or not I would be able to go to university. Who was going to pay that?
Yeah.
How are we going to fund it? Because it's still my father.
What had happened to your elder brother? Because he was ahead of you.
Yes, so my brother was also at the verge.
Okay.
Of having that. So.
Were you? He was ahead of you in school.
My brother was way ahead of me in school, and my brother would have had the shot of going to university even before I would have.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I'm the first person in my family to have gone to the university.
Okay.
Before my brother, because it was not going to be possible for my father to take care of us in addition to the expenses at home.
Yeah.
I don't know how anybody else would have done that, but you don't preach in town to take 2 kids to university. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
So then my brother had to, start working. Okay. So my brother signed up to, he started reading an MCA course. Okay. Medicine counter assistant. He was reading, he did that and all of that.
I guess where the pharmacy direction came in.
That's where, a number of those directions came in. And so my brother in the initial stages was very instrumental in my entry into the university. And I'm always grateful for that. And so that's how I ended up in university. But before I got there, the thoughts of starting a business and everything began, sprouting when I finished senior high school. Okay. When my brother finished senior high school, he was teaching in the community and he started as a teacher, teaching and all of that, trying to get some funds. And so when we finished, my mom was also like, you don't be sleeping, start something. Yeah. And these are some of the moments that I keep saying, it keeps reminding me that, my childhood was stolen away from me. Because you finish senior high school, all the struggle you go through, at least you rest at home, you get ready for university. That was not my fate. Every single morning, my mother was reminding me, you need to start working. We don't sleep at home. You are lazy, leave home, start something. And I keep asking myself, because I was a bit enlightened at the time. I used to read a lot. What am I supposed to do? Because she started a provision shop and the caretaker stole literally everything. So it didn't work out. So I didn't have, that exposure to understand really what I could do at the time. You get the whole point. So I literally was there like that. And then, school came. I used to think around. So I used to move around. Those were the times that I realized that I read something business. So I have to start thinking, and they said, if you want to start a business, go into the community, understand what's, so when my brother and I wanted to start something, those are some of the things that informed us, because the community had only over the counter, right, the OTCs. So they were not selling any good drugs or anything. In fact, you get to an OTC, you see them selling tomatoes and things in addition. I mean, because everybody was trying to survive. So you see them selling tomatoes and everything in that stretch.
There was the paracetamol in
it was wild. And, my siblings also had some health stuff. So I remember that, all of us we fell ill and then we had to be
that area is very dusty and all that.
We had to be rushed. In fact, currently now, we're recording some low sales at the shop because they are constructing the road. The road has been on construction for 30-something years. It has never been done. Everybody comes and then they float it a little bit, convince the voters, and then after the election, they vanish. That's been the state. But, it's not as dusty as it's always been. So those things informed us. We got ill. We had to be taking long distances to get care and all of that. Like, I have seen very serious instances. My little brother, where we had to put spoon in his mouth so he doesn't
bite his tongue.
Yes, very serious. And then he's on my father's neck, and we're looking for a car to leave at Sherman to Amasamai. The hospital there at the time was just a clinic. It was not highly resourced, in terms of medical equipment.
Yeah.
So they would also refer you, take him here, take him there. Imagine if you have to leave at Sherman to take your child to Children's Hospital. See the gap. So these things were very, they're very traumatic.
Yeah.
I wouldn't lie, very, very traumatic. So I keep saying that, for all the experiences I've had to go through as a young person, I didn't even need to live in somewhere in the village to think that I was totally deprived.
You're right
Here in the capital city, there's much deprivation than people even assume exists elsewhere.
Yeah.
And I'm very serious because people still live in mad houses where we are. At the back, the people live in mad houses. There's high levels of teenage pregnancy and all of, just like the village. Yeah. And so those were some wild, experiences. Yeah.
So after SHS, your mom hounding you more or less to start something. What did you start? What did you do?
In fact, I didn't. I'm not the person that is hasty.
Okay.
Right, but I'm quite resolute. If I say I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But I'm not hasty in arriving at that. So I always used to tell them that my journey and my destiny is not like my brother or any other person else. Take your time. Something will come up, because, the way I understood, the way my life was reshaped in senior high school, and so many experiences had come that my parents were not even aware of that I had been socialized with. Usually that's the thing with African parents. They are not in terms with the growth transitions of their kids.
Yeah.
And so they expect that everything is supposed to be linear. Hey, go to school, jump, do this, chase white collar. But, your kids go through different experiences that they may not even be able to talk about.
Yeah.
And that was my situation. So I used to say, don't worry, ma. Don't worry, you. Something will come up later. I just want to allow me.
Yeah.
And so you don't even leave the house to... I really used to text and all of that until I heard that results were in and all of that, because if you go and ask for airtime, you are wounded at home. You are not working, you're also going to ask for airtime. So I was not going anywhere. My friends would say, oh, let's go somewhere, after senior high school, the youthful exuberance is there. You want to vibe, you want to set out, because it was a boys' school. No, mine was just in that, there was no way I would have said 4 walls. But mine was just in that, enclave and like that. So I didn't step, I was that stubborn with my decision not to start anything at the time. But I was thinking, what are some of the things that we could start and all of that. So when I was about to enter the university, my brother and my father, we used to talk. And, I don't want to use the word poverty. In a much refined expression, in materially under-resourced environment.
Very euphemic.
There's that bond between the families for them to be talking all the time, and everybody sharing their plights one way or the other. So my brother and my father, we used to talk and all of that. And when my brother came back, he said that he's found something he thinks he can do, and it would bring some revenue. My father said, what was that? He said, oh, he thinks an MCA. So I was okay, sure. So my father said, okay, he'll find some money to pay for his. It took a while before my father even found that small money to pay for my brother to register for the MC. So imagine if he was paying for us, I wouldn't have gone to school. Yeah. So it worked out for my brother. He passed perfectly well and started working in some of the OTCs around there. My brother said, it looks like this thing, if we do something from us, it would make much more sense. What do we think about that? I said, I've also looked around. I've also done my scanning. I had the business intellect a little bit, so I've moved around, scanned. There were no pharmacies around. We probably could start
a pharmacy,
something. But I think that was around 2016. Nothing really started at the time. It was just a conversation, and I entered the university in September at the University of Ghana. I was hoping to...
What were you studying there?
I was hoping to get law. Everybody at home was hoping to get law. And then it came, and then, the University of Ghana has this wild way of giving you some wild combinations that I'm not sure if you want to tell your wife. It just came, and then it was Swahili, sociology, and then social work. I was like, Jesus, what are these courses?
SSS.
SSS straight. I didn't know what exactly it was, We still didn't get the luxury to have people explain fully to us what these courses were, what available.
But I'm sure you're excited you're going to the university anyway.
I didn't want to go because I wanted law or nothing else. Okay. Either that or business administration, because those are the things I failed. So how do I say? You know, at that time you're concerned about what your colleagues will be saying.
Yeah.
So imagine if my colleagues hear that, Charlie, you entered the University of Ghana. Oh, yeah. I remember on our class page, you know, people were saying the courses they were, and then somebody asked, then I was a chapel fair for a crack, and somebody asked, Chapel P, where you get? So I had University of Ghana. Which course? Oh, then the boys, they said it for me. I didn't have to say Swahili, sociology, or something. Everybody was laughing because they had economics and all.
Yeah.
I mean, did you know that they would be crying in university reading economics? But everybody was happy because those were the courses that, you know, you'd enjoy reading. You hear big, you know, you are big at
There's something fancy to it. So.
I read sociology. In fact, I'd say that reading sociology and social work has been one of the best things that happened to me, because at the cracks of sociology is understanding society, understanding why people do things, understanding the reasons behind people's actions, you understand?
Yeah.
So coming down to the base and learning about society, learning about why things happen, learning about the structure of society and all of that. And, you know, a number of these sociologists were philosophers themselves. So exposed me to a number of, you know, philosophies and getting to understand the power of philosophies and the impact it has on people. So
do you enjoy reading philosophy in your spare time?
I do. I enjoy a lot.
Who's your favorite?
One of my favorite philosophers is a German philosopher, Friedrich Hegel.
Okay, Hegel. Hegelian dialect.
He talks about the concept of objectivism, you know, and I also enjoy the likes of Aristotle and Zeno from Citium on Stoicism and all the others. I'm a Stoic, so a number of these things are so it's
so like Seneca and all that.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. That's nice. Anyway, cool. So you've read sociology, enjoying it. Great opportunity. But wait, I mean, you had the posture that either law or nothing.
Yeah.
But you went anyway.
Yeah. So when I went, I don't like that I didn't enjoy my first semester. So you know, it was away from all the wild experience I had growing up, my university at the University of Ghana was one of the wildest places I ever lived. In fact, I would have almost left and come home and say I wouldn't continue again, because it was hard. I packed to University of Ghana in 2016 in September with no provisions or anything like that. I packed my clothes and then came with my father to school. My father and my parents have this saying, they'll tell you that where you are going, you don't know this, so don't go and act like Ajimai. Don't go and act like a savior. Those were the last words I heard from my father. In fact, even before entering there, I struggled getting accommodation and all of that until later on my father was able to see the hall tutor, and then we got a room. I entered the University of Ghana and that was it. There were no visits, there was nothing. I was just thrown there like that into the wild arena. And, you know, once a while my father would say, is everything okay? I hope you're learning. You know, those were the major concerns. And at the time, my father used to send I still remember this, and I've always said that if I have to pull it up, I'd write to MTN and ask them, please bring me all the Momo transactions for 2016. Because usually when I say, people think I'm joking. Those times my father used to send me 20 cedis a week.
Wow.
And if I don't know how I lived on
like
that.
2017.
Yeah, I don't know how I lived on that. People would say, 2017, 20 cedis was huge. I said, don't worry, let's swap lives. So that you get a 20 cedis at the time and then see if it was weightier than you think it is now. I buy water, a bag at the time. I think that time was it 2 cedis, 3 cedis, 17 cedis left. You buy bread. If you buy milk and everything, what's left for you to eat out? And that was for the week. You know, so I usually loathe talking about my university time because it was very wild. And that's what pushed me to explore, you know, other
avenues.
Yes, revenue generating models, occupations to make money. And at that time, my brother when I entered school, my brother said, okay, sure. He's also going to try and divide some of the income he gets so we can start the pharmacy. So my brother started initially with, you know, getting the foundation done, the blocks and all of that.
You guys actually built the structure?
Yeah, so it started from 2017. So we wanted a place to start it, and my father said that, the house land is there. He doesn't think he has money to get us a place or something. So if we want to start at that, you know, place. So he gave us the frontal part of the house, and then that's where we started the foundation and then started everything. And then, so I was also trying to explore avenues to find, money to support. So, because I thought that at least if the pharmacy is done, it would ease the burden, because we had thought about it, but how to start was a big problem, So I also said, sure. So I was it just a casual day like that? I was passing by, and then there's this gentleman who's currently with Asase Radio, Caleb Hinakwa. Caleb met me and interviewed me. He says, "Oh no, I'm interviewing people. So I want to interview you." I think it was something related to sport.
Okay.
And then I did the interview, and he says, "Oh, you speak very well. I think that you can be a journalist." So I asked him, what is it about? What's journalism? In fact, I was totally naive about all of that. And he says, "Oh,
were you in the university at the time?"
Yeah. He says, "Oh, at the University of Ghana, there's a university radio called the Radio Universe." And he thinks that I can. So I asked him, "Do they do sports there?" I was all entirely about sport, because I used to play the soccer there on campus too. I was just hoping that one thing would click, and then, it would work well. Right from senior high school through to the university, I had been doing music. I was singing. I told you I could sing. Yeah. So the first thing I ever managed was a music band.
Oh, where? In senior high school?
Yes. From senior high school too, we were widely known across the senior high schools in Accra, because we would move from Accra Academy.
It was like a Christian?
Yeah, it was totally Christian. And these guys were...
Chapopedia.
These guys were totally sought after guys. I mean, instrumentalists. They were top guys playing at high level. So we'd move from St. Mary's Senior High School to Accra Girls, and the solid band moving across, and all the expenses and all things were borne by me. You can imagine at that time. So those were the first things that I properly managed. He's right.
At this point, you're still in university.
Yes, I was
a
still in
myriad of
university.
Experiences.
Yeah.
And I mean, pro bono.
Full pro bono.
Yeah. Now, in hindsight, it looks like you're getting trained for something, right? And crazy experiences. But while you're on campus, did you see the need? I mean, now you're doing all these things, time consuming. Yeah. The only thing I gathered, aside the father's 20 CDs weekly stipend, which is probably by 30 CDs now, in your third or final year. You're not making any money elsewhere apart from the TV. Are you still doing the radio?
No, so when I zoomed into TV, I stopped the radio because I had to do TV.
So you stopped getting 50 CDs to 0 CDs?
Yes, I stopped that.
Did you, there's probably a need for money, right? Did you have to set up anything else on the side to help you make money?
So I used to talk with my brother, and I was like, we had just done the base, like the foundation of the pharmacy. There was no money to continue. I thought that maybe the number of things I was doing was going to bring some high level money. None of them. In fact, I've gone for interviews. I've gone for sessions where I was supposed to be host, where I was supposed to be moderator. I had done thousands of things. None of them were paying, except like the moderation on campus, where the sports director to give you something. So it was very wild for me. And then I thought that, okay, maybe I should. So I think in third year, I met this friend, and I said, "Charlie, my brother and I are starting a pharmacy. Don't you think you know some investor?" Because the guy was quite exposed. Some investor, because I was, then I was a bit enlightened, so I knew that people could get in equity and all of that and stuff. So I said, "Don't you know some investor who would like to, contribute some money and then help build a pharmacy?" The place, there's no pharmacy, so if the person does it, there's going to be money and all of that. The person, he says, "Oh no, he doesn't know anybody." And I said, "Okay, sure." So in my third year, I started my foundation, then Worship's Aid, which is currently now known as Echo Africa Network. And gracefully, we're going to be 5 years on September 21st this year.
What was I supposed to do? What does it do?
When I realized that, a number of people like myself were wallowing in deep poverty, acute poverty and all of that, I thought that I could start a foundation that could help underprivileged people.
You started the foundation when you didn't have the money.
And the because of my little exposure at the time, I did not think that, foundations were established by wealthier people. Like at the dying numbers of your career, of your life, when you've lived it, you've made some money, then you start a foundation and then, put some money inside. I was 19 by then or so. I said I'll start a foundation. So the very first project we did on campus, we did it with PPAG as a planned parenting and all of that. And then some other place, it was a health screening for the student. We recorded high level numbers. It was wild. So everybody got to hear, who is the worship guy? Okay. We did it together. People came, did the screening.
So you decided to start a foundation. You start the projects. What was the first event again?
So our focal aim was to do the donations and our privileged ones. But I wanted, yes, not necessarily to orphans, but we had not set the thematic areas.
Okay.
Right. So it was not defined.
How are you do the block? How are you getting the block of so to speak, people, audience for this foundation?
So everything
just hitting the street.
So we had not even. It was not even a paperwork. It was a thought.
Okay.
We had not. There was nobody. It was just me. I don't want to use we as though there was somebody else. I had not thought about it in full details, and I just conceived the idea in 2018, and I said, no, I think I should start a foundation. I don't want people to end up like myself.
Okay.
Right. I think people have talent and skills that they can bring out. So we should help underprivileged people. I spoke to a few friends. Everybody says, it was a good idea. That kind of thing. When you want to start something, everybody gives you the high. And then I said, okay, I'll start. But I was looking at a way to enter into the scene. So this friend came around and said that, it looks like PPAG want to do some health screening on campus.
Okay.
But they don't know how to go about it or something like that. You said you want to start a foundation. Don't you think you can use it too?
Yeah.
And then because we had not defined what the foundation was going to do, I thought we could do a number of things. Maybe today we could do donation, tomorrow we can do health screening or something like that. So I said, okay, sure. So I took over the whole project and we organized it properly.
You went to meet PPHD.
Yeah. So they came on campus, we spoke, and I said, no, don't worry, I'll get them a student on campus. I was quite popular, so if everybody heard that worship was doing something, they would come. And I was a vice president at the time, so even my hall, that's like a ready audience. If you're
was Wisdom was a worship aid incorporated at this time?
No. Nothing registered, nothing. So it was on the flyer that we wrote, worship's aid. Then it was even at the last. PPAG and the others came. It was even at the last. So we did a thing, and then, there's this guy I got to know through my director at esports, and I sent him a text that, oh, boss. He was with there's this MiFi company that came. It's not Selfline. There's another one. I've forgotten the name. And I texted him. I was like, I want to do something like this. So my foundation, can you buy the T-shirts for me? So the guy literally bought 20 for me like that. And then the worship's aid were on it. So that's the first thing. That's literally our coming out. And then everybody was like, oh, what is worship's aid about? Want to join? So we created a group, over 200 people. I was the only soul who was serious about anything there. I said, guys, so that was a plan, like a partnered project. So our real project itself that we did, was...
Did you make any returns on that?
No. I lost, literally. It was in December. It was for KIAs.
Okay.
So we did health screening for KIAs, we did health education for KIAs, and then we did donation. That was our first project, but it was mega. I had friends who said, okay, sure, I also know some doctors from Kolebu. I think they would want to do a pro bono. So the doctors came around to come and teach and all of that. Okay. And I met somebody who says, oh, I think I also can give you some small drugs so you use for the screening. Somebody says, I can. So we put it all together, and then there's this man I knew from WhatsApp TV, ABD, Traore, the CEO.
Okay.
He said, okay, I can also send my people to come and take videos for you and all of that. He's been a very good mentor for a very long time. So he sent his guys to come also do pro bono. And then it was all over the place. Then I sat and I was like, this is not sustaining. I don't think that if we want to get people out of their problems, precisely underprivileged people, we have to give them the things to feed on. We rather have to help them develop skills so that they can better. So I sat down at the time, I was thinking, and I remember that when we went for Gusa Games in 2017 at UDS, there was a roommate who was climate inclined. So he used to talk about climate stuff and plastics recycling. So I said, okay, I think we can do plastics, and then the underprivileged people that pick the plastics and all of that and weigh, they can get
Money.
paid that way, and then it helps them in terms of developing skills and all of that. So really, that's when the whole foundation was defined then. So we became a waste management and recycling advocacy company. Just that we had some project with it. So our project side was Jamestown.
Okay.
Fully working with Jamestown. And all this time I'm talking about fully running as a non-profit was funded by me. Weirdly. If you ask me how I was getting money to do that, I would not be able to tell. I just think that the heavens have a plan for you. I'm totally, religious may not be the accurate word for that description. Yes, but there's rarely anything I have done that I wouldn't ask God. I don't necessarily will get a yes, but usually I confine myself to some philosophy that if it works out, it means God was with it.
Okay.
So there were so many things that I did with faith that worked. And quite fortunate for me, before I do a project, I'm able to see
how your favorite philosopher was atheistic. I mean,
yes, I'm not a bit extreme when it comes to adopting people's philosophy.
Yeah.
Because sociology helps you understand that people have their own backgrounds for why they arrive at certain things. So if I find that this thing makes a large number of sense, I just pick it up. Because I'm a naturalist, right? But I also believe to some extent positivism makes some level of sense.
Logical positivism, or what?
The positivism theory, the basic theory.
Okay.
The naturalists believe that these values are inherent.
Yeah.
And some of them believe they are divine.
Yeah.
Positivists don't hold that perspective. They believe that everything must be properly have been ordered, especially the laws. I still balance it because I'm doing law now. I believe truly that laws must be properly.
Okay.
So there's that blend of positivism a little bit.
I get it.
Trade fair, but a number of the things I did at the time were fully grace sponsored, and it worked out. All the project worked out. But along the line, I kept learning.
Essentially, you're just gathering plastics to these people on the street.
Yeah, so they gather right for, we taught them segregations and all of that. So they segregate, they bring it, and then we had this institution that we used to give to. So they give the money and then we give it to them and all of that.
Get cut somehow.
Is it what?
So you're getting cuts.
No, we're not getting anything really. On more serious, there was nothing. In fact, we did quite very huge project. We did the waste management conference, and I remember telling my friends that.
I saw you in university.
Yes, I remember telling my friends that I want to do this thing. I think at that time I was doing service, and I said I want to do this big conference. Yeah, they said, "Yeah, where do you want to do that?" I said, "I want to do it at the Stanbic Incubator, Stanbic Heights." My friends were like, "No. Do you know how much it will cost you? You're starting small. Start from the SRC Union building. Small people, you will do it." Right?
Relentless, I guess.
So this is my frank philosophy. I loathe the idea that start small, later do it big. And here's how I understand it. I believe that everything that was done big, the preparation began small. Okay. So if you can pull your weight and do it big, then you don't have to think small.
Okay.
You understand what I'm trying to say? For example, the podcast you're shooting.
Yeah.
I'm not certain that the cameras are for you guys necessarily. So you guys are incurring some cost to do it. So usually you could have just said, "Oh, let's use our phone. Let's start small." Yeah. But if you can pull in your weight to do it well.
Shout out to Dick. He bought everything. Yeah.
He bought everything. So fair.
Stabbed himself to get the
So in a very good contrast.
Yeah.
If you were following the philosophy like, let's say start small, a clinical example would have been, let's start with our phones. Later on, when we get this thing, we can start buying. But if you can pull in the weight and get good cameras and start shooting properly, then there's no reason to start with your phone.
Yeah.
That's the philosophy. That's how I see the thing. Yeah. That if you can do it well, it really doesn't matter.
Be audacious from the jump.
So I said I was going to do it. And I did it at the Stanbic Incubator. We did it. We had members of parliament as speakers, for CEOs from...
So walk us through the process for that. So did you have to, we were working at the Parliament House. So you're speaking to the MPs, telling them about the project.
Yes, I told them about it. And there was one MP that supported. At the time, I think she supported with 800 cities. The honorable member for Ayawaso West, Ma Lydia, I spoke to her and I said, I want to do something like that. It's in your constituency. That she was like, okay, sure, go to the guys. They'll give you some money. I went there. The guys gave me 800 cedis. I added it to what I had. I had saved, for my NSS and stuff. And then I used my NSS money to do that conference.
This time, what was happening to the pharmacy?
So it was still at the foundation base. It was just there.
Okay.
It was literally just there. So it got hopped on.
What was the driver for this project? You see, now, you're in junior NSS, you start this project, you're not making much money. But, it's an impact-based project, right? What was the driver? Given your background, it makes sense to have a driver for something that was going to give you money. But now this thing's not really giving you money. What was behind it?
I think that...
Were you just enjoying the challenge? Do you understand me?
I think that every entrepreneur goes through certain phases.
Yeah.
And I just use mine as the basis for the comparison. That for me, at the initial base when I wanted to start business, I didn't want to start business necessarily because I was looking for a certain community to help.
Okay.
I started because I wanted to get my family out of poverty.
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand that? But having gone to school, seen different experiences, having realized different things altogether, reminded me of my roots, that I had to do something community-centered.
Yeah.
So I fully became, I couldn't be a capitalist. It was not working. I fully became somebody that thought a lot more about society all the time. So all the projects I've run, all the startups I've run have been totally community-centered. I have lost more in terms of financial, and other resources in the startups I have built than I have ever gained. Up till now, my other 3 companies that I run, I have not gained a Peswa as profit, but we are running fully, properly well, and I keep putting in.
Wow.
That's how I think that, we can create change. I think that change doesn't come easy.
Yeah.
And, you must work on it. But I realized, so I kept learning along the line that if we want to do the practical way of doing the plastic recycling, it was going to be hard. Mm-hmm. Because if you check the state of the plastic recycling, there are just a few companies inside there. There's very little competition, but those companies inside there are huge. The likes of Zoomlion and Co. There was no way we were going to compete as a waste management company. Mm-hmm. So then I thought, okay, then let's do advocacy of it.
Okay.
Right? That's one way to cure the problem. If people are taught how to do proper disposal of waste, we're not going to have to deal with indiscriminate.
Yeah.
Do you understand my point?
I get it.
So we transitioned also to, advocacy. Only that would support other companies by going to the beaches to do the beaches cleanup, getting the plastics
So
and
now
all.
so essentially you are channeling to education.
Yes, that's what we're doing.
Okay, so how are you going about it? What are the distribution lines?
Okay. One of them was the conference that we organized, where we gathered, CSOs, we gathered companies within the space, we gathered some members of parliament because people resonate with them.
And with this company, the nascent phase of this company was Worship Aid.
It was Worship's Aid.
And now it's become...
So it was still Worship's Aid, but now at the time we did the conference, it was still Worship's Aid.
Oh, okay.
It was fully Worship. So people used to ask, what's Worship's Aid? And, at the time, I used my name because...
on campus, you had some...
Yes, I was the brand.
Okay.
So people joined the project because of me, right? We changed the name because we had moved away from operating just in universities to start operating nationally and even internationally. Okay. The name had outlived its purpose. It had to start reflecting the climate thing that it really was about. So that's how come we changed the name to Echo Africa. And then it's been doing amazing, stuff. We've trained over 500 young people.
Okay. On climate.
Yes, ever since we've trained. Last year we organized a pre-COP workshop in partnership with the African Center of Energy Policy, the Petroleum Hub Development Corporation. Wow. We're doing wild stuff. Last week we participated in the Future of Innovation Challenge, where we're part of the 12 African companies that were chosen to pitch. And we're building a mobile application that translates climate and energy concept into local languages. We believe that building resilient communities and sustainable environments begins with culture, of which language is a key section of it. If people understand what we're talking about, then it's easier for people to transit. Yeah. Even the literates don't understand the technical aspects of climate. How much more the people that have not have very little education. So if you speak in the language you understand. In
Understand.
fact, you come to realize that, I keep saying it, usually when research is done, the people who do the research call themselves the high-level consultants. But you are just gathering knowledge. The people you went to the knowledge from are actually the consultants. The villagers you went to ask them for the knowledge, they are the ones. So if people understand the climate thing we're talking about in their language, they would be better positioned to even prefer to us long existing ideas and solutions they've been using.
Yeah.
Because drought, for example, drought in farming did not start today in Ghana. Ghana has always been a smallholder rain-fed farming environment. How have they been doing it consistently? It means they have their own tricks. We need to ask them.
Yeah.
But it must be done in a language that the people can resonate, that people can understand. So that's what, we're building.
So are you essentially building like a repository of knowledge for climate-related matters? Is that what
So it's not just that. The app is totally beautiful. So beyond just the translation bit of it, we also know that, when somebody wants to learn something climate related now, you'd have to go to schools like the UNA and all the others to get that high level certification. But everybody must learn something climate.
Why? Why do you think so?
Because climate, we are the Earth's most important ally. And we need to start seeing it that way. That's the first thing. Secondly, we humans are going to bear the brunt of the climate change much more than anything else. And so there's not going to be a certain group of people who are going to be saved. It's not like rapture or another group of people who are not going to be changed. Climate must be seen like your health status, because climate impacts every single thing that we do. It's like our constitution, the way our constitution sets us up. Climate does everything. We have drought now because, of course, Ghana's climatic, conditions have changed. There's little water, there's low production. So you see, food production, agri.
Does Galamsey fit in somehow?
Yeah, it does fit in. It has its own contribution.
I really hope you guys hold the bull by the horn, because I keep telling my friends that now Ghana is a great place to do great and important work, but then it's not like a safe place to live. Things are deteriorating. Food, water, and it's scary. So it's good people like you are building things like this to help.
I think that people. I just think that we're people that consider immediate pleasure as against long term. Because no matter how hungry I am, I would never find myself, and I'm using me as the premise. I would never find myself, damaging the water bodies to get gold to sell. Why? Because at the end of the day, even if I make as much money as it is, I'd still be spending more procuring good water to drink. So it's not a safe thing to do entirely.
So how have you got backing, financially? Have you got grants?
So in our 5 years of operation, this is a year that we've received some grant from government, but all the 5 years of operation have been totally funded by me.
Bootstrapping.
Yeah.
Wow.
Every single thing has been funded by me.
Okay. So now you have a pharmacy as at 20, what's it called? You do your national service, which is 2020.
So the pharmacy came up in 2020.
2020.
So then we had been able to put
you've been awarded as the young CEO and for your pharmacy business, more or less, right? Tell us about that. How have you moved from a small piece of land at foundation level in 2020 to being awarded as the CEO for this venture?
So I think,
how has that journey been look like?
It's been I remember sharing the story, and then a number of people who live in the community who know the story actually say that it's been a very tiring but good ride. In our 4 years of operation, in that community, the first thing I want you to know is that they are interconnected communities. So it's not like you live here and you go to, there's a gate where you enter a new community. They are all together like that, right? So
blurred boundaries.
Yeah, our pharmacy has been a source of, good medical support to more than 8 communities that are interconnected within that area. We are the first pharmacy to have introduced 24 hours services.
Wow.
24-hour services. And it's not like at the time, we had capacity to even, get workers. So we're thinking wild, I think very wild that we've started a pharmacy. There are others around. Everybody's actually doing
And
the
I'm
same
sure
thing.
you're coming in with the momentum you had gathered from Wisdom's Aid, seeing all the things you had done.
So
momentum.
those experiences were wild. And,
So how now you've done what you're doing Worship's Aid. Your brother is an over-the-counter
Yes,
attendant,
yeah.
right? You guys have a plan to do a pharmacy.
Yeah.
What happened?
So I think from 2019, we had some money coming a little bit from our own staff that raised the foundation up a little bit. And then in 2020, the same person that I asked in
You
2018
knew an investor.
whether I could get me an investor was the same person that came into the life again, and I asked, and the person said, yes, my sister wants to do something like that. So I think we can do it together. And it's quite funny because the story is similar to like that of Joseph. It's more like servitude. So I met, he ran for SRC president at the University of Ghana campus. He lost.
Okay.
But he was one of the good candidates. He came in late, made a very good impression. And so I genuinely liked him. So I think at one time when I was leaving Radio University from work, it was very late. I saw that they were packing a few things into a car. So I asked him, yo, where are you going? He says, oh, they are going to do a health screening project at the Northern region.
Okay.
So I asked, is it more like I'm NGO staff? And he says, yes. And that was like 20, we started that thing like 20, I met them in 2018. That's the same time I had started Worship's Aid.
Okay.
So I thought that if I join, I'd learn more about how these NGOs work well.
Yeah.
So I didn't even, they were living at dawn. So I asked him, can I join? I want to volunteer. And he says, sure, why not? So I went back and I called my dad. I was like, oh, there's this NGO that's going to the north to go and do health screening and stuff. Before we step out to go anywhere, we would ask my father, is this safe? So do you think I can go? Please pray about it and let me know. So my father called me back, I think around 10 p.m. and says that you're allowed to go. I packed my small things and then I joined them, helped them. That was my first time living. No, that was the second time I was going to the Northern region. I had gone there in 2017 for the Gusa Games, the All University Games. So I said, oh, sure. So I joined them. It was a week. It was not small work. Hey. And
You truly volunteered.
I volunteered that whole week. I was quite short. I still am anyway. But I don't like to use the word short. I'm just down to earth. So I'd climb up the car, bring the loads down, everything.
Yeah.
I remember that when we got to the hotel in the Northern region, we got to the deepest part of it, Salaga. When you get to Tamale, you have to do 3-hour drive to Salaga.
Yeah.
So we're on the road for almost 17 hours because usually you stop, we stop along the line for the volunteers to urinate, eat, those kind of things. We got there and then they looked into the hotel. Apparently they booked. Some people had also come there, so we had limited rooms. So they started saying that, okay, we're going to pay. And then they gave the good-looking rooms to the ladies. And then they said the boys are boys. The other guys were murmuring and, I just packed my bag. Where I sleep in Accra is no better than where you are giving me.
Yeah.
There's no need to murmur. There's no need to complain. I packed my things, started pushing the thing inside. And then, we moved in. That whole week, it was not small work. I stewed a lot because I was eating things that, I have a very vulnerable stomach. Any little thing that's not good will shake me up. I was stooling. We were doing the screening, then you stop and go, it's too small, then you come. A whole new place, the food, the nothing foods, so new. I came back, I was sick for 2 weeks because it was a whole new thing altogether.
Yeah.
So I supported that NGO twice. So 2018, 2019, even 2020.
Okay.
So it was through that I got much
Built a
closer.
relationship with
And the woman who is now a partner of the business saw me, from supporting. So when we met and the brother says, oh, these are the people that,
They want to do.
you to do business. I was like, oh, worship. There's no need to talk. If it's worship, dear, it will be good. Wow. Because I had volunteered like 3 years consistently supporting. So that literally is how, my divine support came. My divine helper came. I didn't know that I had to literally serve that wild.
I just think so far from your story, it's quite glaring that your selflessness, for lack of a better word, and like just commitment to work.
Yeah.
It's like paving way for you, like doing all these things pro bono, that getting work, but then getting the network to do all the things you're doing. Yeah, it's something I just wanted to mention.
Yeah,
Please an emphasis on.
In fact, like I mentioned, initially I started as somebody who wanted money.
Yeah.
I realized that it wasn't going to work that way. The money was not going to come. And that's what I wanted to talk about, the symmetric bets and the asymmetric bets, just briefly. Basically symmetric bets are like when you are aware of the equal balance of potential gain and then the potential risk. So you're aware that if you put water into this dispenser, when you press it down there, you're going to get water. You are certain of the outcome.
Yeah.
But that's not how life is. Life is totally asymmetrical, such that you are not aware of how the outcome would be, regardless of how much effort and investment that you make. You get the point. So you put in $1,000 in a startup business. You are expecting that the business will go. There's a probability that the business may do well and then you start earning. But there's also a high level probability that it may fail and you may lose everything. Those are the two states of life. But the difference is that usually for the asymmetrical bets, there are two other things that tag along that makes it good. We call it the law of large numbers and the power of compound symmetry, asymmetry. And this is what it means. That the law of large numbers, there's the idea that the people that are overly successful are the people that have a high track record of risk taking from which they have learned from those risks. Right? So they are not certain of the outcome. You put in $1,000 today, you lose it. But this time you learn how to put in the money better. So even though if you lost $2,000 this time, when you do the next investment, you may not necessarily earn more, but you will not lose as much as you did the first. So the more you do it, the more you reduce the risk you'll be meeting in the future. So it's just the probability of reducing, the risk profile that you encounter. The law of large numbers says that the more you keep doing that, you position yourself, you refine yourself to reduce your risk and start increasing your gain. You understand that? And then the power of compound symmetry says that experience that you have gathered, it compounds together to make you whatever you become. Such that if we're putting two people together, you are better refined to achieve success than the other person.
Great.
You see the transition. Yeah. So we must learn to understand that life is totally asymmetrical. You're not certain of the outcome. As a farmer, I know that much better than many people do.
Yeah, you touch on the fact that you're a farmer too.
Because we plant and then, the first time I did planting, everything was good. It was in the rainy season. I was expecting 150 bags. I've shared this story so many times last year on the APSA platform everywhere. I was expecting 150 bags, 20 and 200 bags. I had 20. It was in the rainy season. As a rain-fed farmer, it rained, everything was okay. I had 20. So as a farmer, I literally know that life is, the paradox of life is, and that's why I enjoy the poem by Robert Frost, Road Not Taking, where he uses that as a metaphor for the journey of life. In the last three lines of the last stanza, he says that, and the road that, diverged, two roads diverged in the wood, and I took the ones less traveled, and that made a difference. For me, that literally is my story, that the roads that I have taken are roads that a number of people wouldn't want to take, but that's what has made a difference for me. I'm the type that, I'm mentioning that I'm a stoic, totally resilient. I believe that the goal of inquiry is, is that you provide a mode of conduct where it's characterized by the tranquility of mind and a certain moral worth. There's that repositioning of a person into pursuing happiness, virtue, and all of that. Resilience, more importantly. So if I'm hit by something today, tomorrow I'll think about it differently. When I planted and I had 20 bags and I realized that the people's issue was that they didn't have machines. Mechanization is a big problem altogether. I didn't come back to sleep in Accra and say I'm going to do the farming again. This year, W. Kent and our group, we managed to procure a multi-purpose tractor that we're renting for the farmers for them to use on their lands. If you rent a tractor, there's 400, but we are giving it to them at a subsidized cost, just so that it can be high. So you realize that even at an instance where I can still be earning profit, I'm still thinking about society. I don't know, maybe God should change me. I want to be a capitalist a little bit. Sometimes I also want to do, the Miamis and the Maldives and all of that, but I guess it's going to come in a much different way.
There's a higher bidding. So you built the pharmacy. You made it clear. Volunteering for this person, you get investments, and then you set up the pharmacy. Now you guys are servicing AIDS communities, and we thank God for that. 24/7.
24/7. In fact, we introduced rapid.
So your brother is
diagnosis.
managing that now.
Yes, we do it together.
Okay.
We have 3 branches now.
Oh, okay. That's great.
We're 3 branches.
All in the same enclave.
No, there are 2 in the same enclave. There's one that we're currently working on now, and we manage it together. In fact, when we started 24/7, we didn't have workers because we couldn't pay. And because my brother is the only person who could sell, we're there at the shop together.
Yeah.
He sleeps and I'm awake. If somebody comes in and I wake him up. So during the day, I take my sleep. During the night, I'm an owl. I'm awake. That's how we ran it for like 6 months. So it's not like,
Wow.
So the CEO of the year is totally deserving, because for a whole 6 months in the night, my eyes are like that, and then, just waking him up and all of that. And we introduced a rapid diagnosis test into the community. The people didn't even know what exactly it was about. When you go to the pharmacy now, if you want to do a malaria test, you're able to do that. No, it was not there. We introduced, so these are some of the great things that, through the pharmacy we've been introduced to.
Your pharmacy is makes you like a little bit of a capitalist. You're not giving free drugs, so...
essentially, but on the scope of pharmaceutical businesses, there are types. The clinical pharmacies, there are community pharmacies, and the others. When you're running as a community pharmacy, you're not really a capitalist.
The margins are small.
Yes, you still must operate within the context of the people. Right. So the people who come, they are not able to afford the drugs. Sometimes you must find a way to scale the balance and all of that. So it's.
So how did the farming thing come in? Now you started the pharmacy. You started pharmacy 2020, right? Growing the business. Farming. So
you'd come to realize that all the stories are totally interconnected. It's quite sweet. So I started the farming by a friend who was part of the team, the volunteers that went to the Northern region to do the screening. So one time he reached out to me and said, "Oh, this school son father thing." So it's like, "Father, I think we should do some business together." And I was like, "Me, I want to do farming." No, it was like, "My father has lands in Salaga. I'll speak to him and see if he can."
Same Salaga you went to for the volunteering.
Yes, I'll speak to him and see if he can, give us a land to start. And this boy had been my mentee for quite a while. Like, I'm very dedicated to supporting people. So I'll examine his documents, a number of things for him. So he has spoken highly of me to his father. So when I spoke to the father was like, "Oh, my son says that you've helped him, you've reshaped him and all of that. So come for some land here in Salaga and then let's start." When I went, there was 100-acre land that was given to us. And his father was one of the chiefs there, so they just gave it to us.
Like a lease?
He literally gave it to him, yes, more like a lease, but he gave it to us and says, "You guys should use the farm." And then so I was like, wow, that's wild. So at the time, we wanted to do a soybean at the time, and then I had invested in the initial amount I had with clearing the land and everything. I got locked up a bit, and another person who was supposed to partner, who really gave me high hopes that I was going to support, literally just ghosted at the end, dying embers. And I literally wept because, clearing the land cost me around 20,000. Wow. So I was hoping that the person's, 10,000 something would have supported. And then because the pharmacy was the only profit-oriented, thing
venture you had,
that was handling every expense, I didn't want to come back and say, "Hey, let me take money or something and then take it to the farm." Besides, it was not just mine. So you need a consensus, a board consensus and all of that, And we are not reached the stage where, the company wants to acquire assets and all of that. So I just came back to Accra and wept and wept and wept and wept till I could cry no more. And then one time my father called me and said that, there's this guy who comes to church, in our church, who is a maize farmer. He says he farms in Ashanti region. So don't you think you want to do farming again? I know you want to do it again. So Speak to the guy. So I spoke to the guy and says, oh, you can get me some lands that are very low cost, not more than 1,000 cities. So if I want to do maize, that place maize does well, so I should do it. Imagine not being able to do salaga, coming to cry, and going to Agogo to go and start and getting 20 bags. You wouldn't want to do the farming again.
Yeah.
You know, but I would. Yes, Asante Achim. I would not want my story to be told that I started something and I couldn't see it through. I mean, that's the thing that keeps me doing the thing. And I talk and I mentioned.
Which year is this one for the farming?
So this was in 2021.
Oh, okay.
So the first one, the Salaga was 2021, and then in 2022 we started that Asante Achim one, and it didn't work out well. But I'm still back there doing tomatoes and maize now, as do everything is, fair. The drought has affected us this season. The tomato yield has reduced, but next year we are there again.
Wow.
As hard as anything else. And, now we're doing more community-centered project. So in partnership with AcoFresh, we're doing training for the farmers because we've come to realize that the reason why we are losing a lot is because climate is changing and there are new things that we need to learn. We need to find a way to introduce mechanization into the system and at the same time balance how it impacts the climate. So now we have the tractor, the communities can use it to work on the land. And because I'm law inclined now, we're also trying to introduce a legal, aid project for them where we teach them basic things in law.
For those listening and watching, Worship is studying law at Game Park, Ghana Institute of Youth and Professional, what's it called? Administration.
So that's what we want to do for them now. So with a team of lawyers and, budding lawyers, we want to provide training for the farmers to help them understand, their business are not even registered. How do they start from that base? Representation. Because I realized a number of the companies were using them. They plan to give it to these companies. The companies take it, they'll pay you in 3 months. In a year, they've not paid them back. And these farmers don't even have representation.
Wow.
So these are some of the things we want to do. If the companies get to hear that these farmers have representation now, they'll start treating the farmers well.
Some respect.
And many young people will be encouraged to enter into the trade. I've said that and I'll say it again, that a trade that does not provide security is not one thing that young people would want to enter.
That's true.
If people want to be bankers, it's because they are short of that security of the trade.
They're not like you.
But they are short of the security of the trade. So that if you're sacked, right, the law secures, the law says be paid, at least be notified 1 month before you are sacked and all of that. Farming, there's nothing that tells you anything like that. But when those things are introduced into the field, a lot more people will find it. For a country that is over 56% agrarian, we should not be in this stage. We should not be importing food over $330 million and things like that when we can invest that much. I know that some of these cuts is the procurement, but at least if we invest much, in capacity, we're going to reap. And I'm hoping that these projects are going to, help these farmers in the long run.
Wow.
Yeah, in the long run.
What a man. I feel like I'm talking to like Marcus Aurelius in 2024.
Really?
Yes. Wisdom. What does the future what does the future look like? With all your ventures, with the farming. Why the name Wiafia Kente?
So I lost my grandmother in 2022. I was named after my grandmother. And, I lived with her. She took care of me. So when I lost her, I just thought, my brother and I thought that we should name the company after her at least.
So now your brother is involved in the farming?
Well. I run all my business with my brother.
That's great.
So the two of us run literally all of them.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay. So what does the future look like for the Eco House, right? Climate company, and then Wiafia Kente, and then with your pharmacy?
I wouldn't speak with much certainty, right? I've just talked about asymmetrical bits.
Yeah.
I am not very certain of what the future would look like.
Yeah.
But I'm working towards a future where people have a more reason to stay in this country.
Yeah.
Where young people are recognized for the value that they possess and the value that they can give to the country.
Okay.
Where people don't have to go through the turmoil that I had to go through to start businesses in the first place. And where people will be encouraged to be selfless. Great nations were built on the back of selfless people.
Yeah.
All the nations that we know in this world, people had to be highly patriotic. I mean, that level of patriotism where you are certain that there's not much reward, but it's for a greater good.
Yeah.
I want us to change that narrative. There should be patriotism that is rewarding. It doesn't necessarily have to be monetary, but it has to be patriotism that recognizes the impact that you're creating. And that is why I set up the last company, Ground Zero Network.
Okay.
Ground Zero meaning that starting from the base.
Okay.
I'm a product of networking. Somebody had
Yeah.
to hold my hands to open some doors for me.
Yeah.
So I thought that if I create that avenue to let these young ones interact with people who have seen it all, they learn from it a thing or two. We've been running that for 3 years now. We've done over 500 young people from all our sessions. And so this is a future I want to see. This is a future I want to give birth into.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm hoping, that regardless of the struggles that we face as a country, regardless of the bad leaders that we have, as young people, we would fight and defy the odds. Our journey to independence is a good reflection of how much effort we still have to put in to defy the odds. Our past leaders, our forebears, put in a lot of weight. I don't want to sound like Osajifo now, but they put in a lot of weight to get us where we are now.
Yeah.
And I think that nothing less of that is required of us. We must give in, and we must do it well. And faith is more important. We usually, when you are thrown into such high levels of struggles, people forget that they must rely on a certain supernatural
power.
Power to do. The world is not as basic as we think it is. I genuinely believe that people must have something they believe in. And if I'm allowed to recommend, of course, believe in Christ. And things get easier along the way.
Okay.
There's asymmetrical in life, but with Christ, it's symmetrical. Yeah.
I have so many questions to you, but it's fine. They've piled up in my mind as you be speaking, but it's fine. You come off as a religious person.
Yeah.
You just recommended that we commit to Christ, right? Death, right? How do you process it?
I have a very simple way of viewing that. I see that it's the only thing that can make you not realize your potentials. And as far as it's not in yet, you still have a chance at life.
Okay.
Because if it sets in now, somebody must rather now continue your legacy. So what happens if you didn't even start a legacy in the first place? And it's just that death comes with that level of fear that if you think about it too much, it prevents you from doing the things that you want to do. But if you see it in the right direction, that it could be a motivation that if you don't finish what you want to do today, tomorrow you may not have the life to continue it. Then you'd kappa dam. You'd seize the moment today, so that if tomorrow you're no more, people remember you for the impacts that you created in society. And of course, there's life after death, because I know that's what you were looking for me to say. There's life after death, and I believe that life is only guaranteed in Christ. I think a lot more young Christian people must be bold about their faith, because all other religions, I don't know why we should be worried about it. I don't know if in this room there are atheists, but it's Christ for us.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Worship.
Yeah.
Interesting name, interesting story. And I only hope that this legacy you have started is going to come to full bloom and you get to taste of your harvest. And I'm grateful for young people like you for it's like I'm aware that this country has great weapons in this arsenal, in this chest of weapons. Yes. And there's hope for this continent.
Right.
Thank you very much for a wonderful conversation. And I hope we do this again when now at the time you're fully a lawyer. And then
You'd have to call me Esquire.
Don't worry, we will do that. Yeah, have a great time.
I just want to add that you guys are doing amazing job. I know how hard it is to start.
Yeah.
For somebody who is open for startups, it is very difficult to start anything in this country.
Yeah.
And so kudos to you guys, and other people are going to get encouraged from watching this thing.
Hopefully.
It's not even just about my story, but your stories as well.
Yeah.
All right. So soon somebody's going to hear the story of. I was going to mention his
Peswa.
name, but it's quite sensitive. So
His name is Decline.
Somebody's
Decline.
Decline, not Dick. Somebody's going to hear the story that
Decline.
when three men wanted to start an impactful project,
Yeah.
Dick, bought the machines.
Bill
Bill took in the set, and the other person did this, and the other people behind the scenes,
Yeah.
and the other people. I mean, that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
Many people don't like to tag along to support others people's dreams. Not all of us are going to be in the limelight. Some of us, our destiny is to be supportive, to build, the destinies of others. We must understand our journey, as long as it matters. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Hello, Accra. Hello, world. And it's been like an insightful conversation. Typically, I'm exhausted in my spirit when I have like really heavy conversations like this. Idua.